Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's take a look at Temporal Forces. Set has been out about 6 months now. See if it's time to pick up singles if you want to add it to your collection. Usually around 6 months is when I like to pick up singles because the price has dropped like 30 to 50% and the price has settled down into a range that looks like it's going to be the final price for that card. Booster box value has been flat. No one's really buying Temporal Forces, guys. It's pretty much been dead since release. The set does carry some valuable cards, starting off with its Metagross that did double up in value. It was a $5 illustration rare upon release, and now sitting at $10, which is a fair price for illustration rare. So we got our first SIR to look at. Iron Boulder sitting at $18 right now. So this card came out the gate at $27 as a high, that has been gradually dropping down 37% from its highs, hitting its lows today. And here we have another illustration rare, Ghastly, of Tale of Two Stories. Release date price of $31, hit a low of $16, which is a 53% drop, which is a great time to pick it up because they hit that 50% mark that I look for price drops in a card after release. But then it had its second life, spiked up to $34, and now it's gradually dropping down, holding steady around $23, so that's the new floor for this card. Next up we have Marty, a very similar situation. This is a Gengar set pretty much in people's eyes. Because of Gengar, this card spiked all the way up to $91. Now down 64%, which is a huge drop. Like I said, people will pump up Gen 1 Pokemon and fan favorite Pokemons to incite FOMO, but just wait for these cards to drop back down to a reasonable price. Even $35 for a trend card is very high, so this card is more based on Gengar being heavily featured in the card. Next up, we have Iron Leaves, hit a high of $51. Actually, pre-release price was pretty high for this card, honestly. I think it was like 90 bucks. It's probably one of the higher pre-release prices. But it's been dropping down ever since. $27 drop from that high of $51 on official release day. Now sitting at $38, which is fair price for illustration rare. I mean special illustration rare. That's pretty much where 151 SIRs are sitting around. Next up, we have Gouging Fire, $51 high, dropped just 25%, hit its floor at $40, and it's been holding steady since May. So some cards you don't have to wait 6 months. It kind of just discover its floor right away. I think also being playable is helping Gouging Fire hold the floor a little higher than normal. But again, Entei is pretty big fan favorite. It's just a new form of it. We'll see how well these perform in the long run, because there are new variations of fan favorite Pokemons. Next up, we have Walking Lake, another card that kind of just dropped right after coming out the gate. Down 35%, which is, it hit that mark of 30% that you want to start considering buying a card, at least in my eyes. And then it spiked up a bit. I know it's kind of playable. Again, a lot of these cards in Temporal Forces is quite playable. So they're holding their value, or they're re-spiking later in its life cycle just because the card is relevant in the meta. You're going to see the next few cards, which kind of is the reason why this is a good set for the actual TCG player. But I don't know how they're going to do so well in the long term. Next up, we have my personal favorite card in this set, Iron Crown. Hit a high of $95 upon release. It was really relevant in the meta. I think with the combat ability, it gives you 20 more damage for each version of it. So that's really good for the future tech that people are running. Again, now that it's not as relevant in the meta, it's been gradually dropping ever since, down 42% from its high, which is a great entry point into considering buying it. But as you can see, it's still gradually falling. I think it can go down to even mid 40s possibly, unless there's another reason for it to be relevant again. As you can see, the volume has really dried up for this card. It's no longer selling at the rate it was upon release when it was needed in the meta. And at one point, I also did think this card was also manipulated for that second spike that you see in mid-May. But then again, no one was buying it. People were smart. They just let it gradually fall. Now those people, whoever was trying to manipulate it, pumped it to 80 bucks. They're holding the bag at that price. Hopefully this keeps on dropping. Currently the top card in this set is Raging Bolt, sitting at $73. It did hit a low of $50, which is a 34% drop from its release day price. But because it became really playable with Ogerpon, I believe, in Twilight Masquerade. No, is this Twilight Masquerade? Whichever set had Ogerpon in it. But because of that, it became really relevant and spiked up in value. Now it's kind of holding its value in the meta, so it's going to be holding its value until it's irrelevant in the meta. Again, I like to look at these 10 cards as an overall picture. Release day price, $529, hit a high of $602. Savings down 36% from its highs. Now currently at $449, so you can buy the same 10 cards. Some are more expensive than others, but they're all total-wise cheaper than they were from the highs. So again, always wait from the highs. Don't FOMO into buying cards when they're spiking up, like that Gengar or the Marty, the Ghastly, the Raging Bull, Iron Leaves. Like all these cards will spike up at one point or another. avoid the FOMO, buy it when the cards has come back down. It'll settle into a range. A lot of these cards have kind of settled into the range, the $40 range for a lot of the SIRs, which is pretty fair for SIR in my eyes. You're looking at some of the most gorgeous looking cards, to be honest. If you're a fan of the Pokemon, the artwork in general looks amazing. So the only reason I'm not crazy about picking up these cards are I'm not a fan of the new forms they're in. Overall, I love the Legendary Beast Trio, but I wish it was that original Beast Trio and not the new forms. But again, Pokemon's got to create new fan base with the new generation, and so they got to reintroduce these Pokemons and new variations to get the attention of the younger generation. So these might do well long term. Again, this is a great set for players currently holding a lot of value just because a lot of cards are very playable in the current meta. But in the long run, will collectors really want to open these cards? I don't know. Maybe for the new generation is what I'm thinking will like these cards, just like the Galarian Birds. I only like the Galarian Bird. The Moltres one is my favorite. That one's holding a lot of value right now. But if you look at the Articuno and the Zapdos, it hasn't really spiked up that much compared to the Moltres one. So artwork does help it a lot, I think. And all these cards are actually very amazing artwork. So let me know what your thoughts are on this set. If you're planning to pick up these cards, if you haven't already, let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.